Come on, you expect me to believe a black woman like you owns a car like this?
Nice paperwork. People like you always think an expensive car and a fancy outfit can make everyone stop asking questions.
Come on, you expect me to believe a black woman like you owns a car like this? Sergeant Cole Harlan sneered as he ripped Lena Brooks's leather briefcase from the trunk and dumped everything onto the asphalt. Documents scattered beneath the flashing police lights. Lena stood handcuffed beside her partially dismantled luxury sedan as strangers stopped to watch. Harlan picked up her registration, glanced at it, then tossed it beside her shoes. Nice paperwork. People like you always think an expensive car and a fancy outfit can make everyone stop asking questions. Lena's jaw tightened. You verified the registration. You found nothing. Harlan leaned closer. Then maybe you should quit pretending you belong in places where nobody believes you belong. Officer Tyler Reed stared at him. Sergeant, that's enough. The VIN is clean. Harlan ignored him and tore another panel from the rear console. We stop when I say we stop. Lena raised her cuffed hands. Harlan, don't open that compartment. His grin widened. Finally scared, he forced it open. A small leather case dropped onto the pavement and flipped open. Reed froze. Captain Grant Keller went pale. Harlan looked down and his arrogance vanished. Lena stared directly at him. I gave you every chance to stop. Whatever lay at Harlan's feet was about to turn this entire roadside upside down. Stay to see what he just uncovered. Comment your city and local time below and subscribe if you believe no one's dignity should depend on their race clothes, money, or status. Hey friends, I've discovered that sharing a meal can turn strangers into friends faster than almost anything else. 90 minutes earlier, Lena Brooks had no idea her car would soon be scattered across the side of the road. The late afternoon sun hung low over Riverton, Virginia, turning the glass storefronts along Westbridge Avenue into long ribbons of gold. Traffic moved steadily through the commercial district as Lena guided her black luxury sedan through an intersection. She was 38, composed, sharply dressed, and observant by habit. Her cream blouse was simple. Her dark trousers were pressed. A thin silver watch rested on her wrist. Nothing about her appearance suggested she wanted attention. That was exactly how Lena preferred it. Her phone vibrated inside the center console. She waited until the next red light before looking down. One message. DP, stay inside the plan. Lena read it twice, then she locked the screen without replying. The light turned green. She continued north. 3 blocks later, a marked Riverton police cruiser pulled onto the avenue behind her. Lena noticed it immediately. She checked her speed. 34 in a 35. Her seatbelt was fastened. She had signaled every turn. The sedan's registration was current. Still, the cruiser remained behind her. 1 block, then 2, then 4. Lena glanced into the rearview mirror. The officer behind the wheel appeared to be watching her car carefully. She made a right turn. The cruiser followed. Another right. Still there. Then the lights came on. Red, blue, red, blue. Lena exhaled slowly. She signaled, moved into a well-lit parking lane beside a row of businesses, placed the transmission in park, and lowered the driver's window. She kept both hands visible on the steering wheel. The cruiser stopped behind her. For several seconds, nobody emerged. Then Sergeant Cole Harlan stepped out. He was broad-shouldered, middle-aged, and carried himself with the relaxed confidence of someone accustomed to being obeyed before he finished speaking. He approached slowly. His eyes moved over the car before settling on Lena. License and registration. Of course. Lena reached carefully toward the glove compartment. Harlan's hand immediately moved closer to his belt. Slow. Lena stopped. I'm reaching for the registration you requested, I said slow. She nodded once. She retrieved the documents and handed them over. Harlan looked at her driver's license, then at Lena, then back at the license. Lena Brooks. Yes. He examined the registration. His eyebrows lifted slightly. This your car? Lena looked at him. Yes. Harlan glanced through the interior. Leather seats, clean dashboard, no clutter. Then he looked at her again. Whose car is it really? There was a pause. Lena had heard the question clearly. She simply wanted to make certain he understood what he had asked. I already answered you, Sergeant. Harlan tapped the registration against his palm. Humor me. It's my car. You buy it? Yes. Cash. Lena's expression hardened slightly. I don't understand how that relates to why you stopped me. Harlan leaned closer to the window. I ask the questions during a traffic stop, and I'm asking why I was stopped. For the first time, irritation crossed his face. He straightened. Plate came back with a discrepancy. What discrepancy? I'll determine that. Lena glanced briefly toward his cruiser. Then please verify it. Harlan stared at her. Most people became nervous when he let silence stretch. Lena didn't. That seemed to bother him more than an argument would have. Step out of the vehicle. Why? Because I'm telling you to. Am I suspected of committing a crime? Harlan's jaw tightened. Ms. Brooks, don't make a simple stop difficult. I'm not trying to, then step out. Lena studied him for another second. She opened the door carefully and stepped onto the sidewalk. Harlan moved back. His eyes traveled from her clothes to the sedan again. You always drive around Riverton in something like this. Lena looked directly at him. Something like what? That. My car. A couple leaving the coffee shop across the street slowed down. Harlan noticed them. His voice dropped. You have a lot of answers. I'm answering your questions. You have an attitude. No. I'm calm. That answer landed badly. Harlan pointed toward the rear of the sedan. Stand over there, Lena complied. He returned to his cruiser with her documents. Through the rear window, Lena watched him type into the computer. 1 minute passed, then 3, then 5. Lena remained beside her car. She could feel people looking. To anyone passing the scene told its own story. A black woman beside an expensive car, a police officer checking her identity, suspicion hanging over her before anyone knew why she had been stopped. Harlan finally returned. Where are you headed? North Riverton. Where exactly? That isn't relevant to my registration. Harlan gave a humorless laugh. You don't get to decide what's relevant. Lena looked at her documents in his hand. Is my license valid? He said nothing. Is the registration valid? Again, silence. Sergeant, if there's a discrepancy, tell me what it is. Harlan stepped closer. Maybe the discrepancy is that things don't always belong to the person holding the paperwork. Lena's eyes narrowed. There it was. Not evidence. Suspicion looking for evidence. I'd like my documents returned. You'll get them when I'm finished. With what, Harlan turned toward his cruiser. He lifted the radio from his shoulder. Dispatch, send me another unit at Westbridge and Mercer. Lena watched him. Why are you calling another officer? Harlan lowered the radio. Because now I want a closer look at this vehicle. A faint siren sounded somewhere in the distance. Lena glanced toward it, then back at Harlan. You verified my documents, didn't you? For half a second, his expression gave her the answer. Then the mask returned. Stand by the car. The siren grew louder. Lena slowly looked toward the approaching police vehicle. Whatever this had started, as Cole Harlan had just decided not to let it end. The second cruiser pulled in behind Harlan's vehicle. Officer Tyler Reed stepped out. He was younger than Harlan, perhaps 29, with an alert expression that changed the moment he saw Lena standing beside the sedan. "What do we have?" Reed asked. "Possible plate discrepancy," Harlan replied. "Maybe more." Reed looked at the car, then Lena. More. Harlan handed him the registration. "Run everything again. Plate VIN registered owner." Reed returned to his cruiser. Lena watched Harlan carefully. "You already ran those." "Officer Reed is double-checking. Then if everything comes back clean, am I free to leave?" Harlan stared at her. "We'll see." Minutes later, Reed approached with a puzzled expression. "Sergeant." Harlan stepped toward him. Reed lowered his voice, but Lena was close enough to hear. "Plate is valid. Registration matches the VIN." Harlan's face tightened, and the owner, Reed, looked at the paperwork. Lena Brooks. Silence. Lena waited. This should have ended it. Instead, Harlan took the registration from Reed. "Run it again." "I did. Twice." "Then check whether the vehicle has been reported stolen." Reed hesitated. "It hasn't." Harlan looked toward Lena. She could almost see the decision forming behind his eyes. He had been wrong, but admitting it would mean allowing the woman he had publicly questioned to simply get back into her car and drive away. His pride wouldn't allow it. Harlan walked toward her. "We're going to need to search the vehicle." Lena's expression remained controlled. "Based on what possible stolen property?" "Officer Reed just confirmed the car is registered to me. That doesn't mean everything inside belongs to you." Lena stared at him. "What stolen property? We won't know until we search." Reed shifted uncomfortably. Lena shook her head. "I do not consent to a search." Harlan stepped closer. "You sure you want to make this difficult? Exercising my rights isn't making anything difficult." Across the street, several customers had begun watching from outside the coffee shop. Among them was Maya Ellis, the shop's owner. She pulled out her phone. Harlan noticed. "Ma'am," he shouted. Maya stopped. "Stay back. I'm standing on my property. Then stay there." Maya raised the phone. Harlan's voice hardened. "Don't interfere. I'm recording." Lena saw irritation flash across his face. Then Harlan turned back toward her. "Open the trunk. Are you asking for consent?" "I'm giving you an order." "On what legal basis?" His face reddened. "You really want to stand here and debate law with me?" "I want you to tell me why you're searching my property." Harlan pointed toward the car. "You're nervous." Lena almost laughed. "I've been standing still for 20 minutes. You keep challenging instructions. I keep asking what I'm suspected of doing." Reed stepped forward. "Sergeant, can I talk to you?" "Not now." "Harlan." "I said not now." The use of his name made Harlan turn sharply. Reed lowered his voice. "Everything checks out." Harlan stared at him. Then he glanced toward Maya's phone. "Go check the VIN physically." "I already did." "Do it again." Reed reluctantly walked toward the windshield. Harlan turned back to Lena. "Keys?" "No." His eyebrows lifted. "No, you have not established a lawful reason to search my car, and I have clearly stated that I do not consent." Harlan extended his hand. "Keys." Lena didn't move. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Harlan leaned closer. "People who cooperate go home faster, and people who know they've done nothing wrong shouldn't have to surrender their rights to prove it." That stopped him. Maya continued filming. A delivery driver had stopped nearby. 2 pedestrians stood near the coffee shop entrance. Harlan suddenly had an audience, and Lena sensed that mattered to him. His voice became louder. Last chance. Open the trunk. Lena looked around. At Reed. At Maya. At the gathering witnesses. Then back at Harlan. Are you ordering me to open it? Yes. I want that clear. It's an order. Lena held his gaze. Then she reached slowly into her pocket. Harlan immediately placed a hand near his holster. Easy. I'm taking out my key. She pressed the button. The sedan's trunk clicked. Harlan walked around and lifted it. Inside were a small suitcase, a folded coat, a leather briefcase, and a locked black document box. Nothing unusual. But Harlan's eyes went directly to the box. What's that work material? What kind confidential? Harlan looked at her, then smiled. It wasn't relief. It was satisfaction. As though after nearly half an hour of searching for a reason to distrust Lena Brooks, he had finally found something he could turn into one. Reed, he called. Tyler approached. Harlan pointed into the trunk. Get the search gloves. Reed stared at him. Sergeant, now. Reed didn't move immediately. Lena looked at the locked box, then at Harlan. You should think carefully about what you do next. Harlan pulled on a pair of black gloves. You should have thought about that before telling me no. He reached into the trunk, and the first thing he grabbed was Lena's leather briefcase. Harlan pulled Lena's leather briefcase from the trunk and dropped it onto the pavement. Careful with that, Lena said. He looked at her. Something valuable. Something private. Harlan smiled. Not anymore. He opened the briefcase. A notebook charging cable business cards and several sealed folders were inside. Harlan removed them one by one and tossed them onto the asphalt. Sergeant Reed said we still don't have anything. We're searching. For what? Harlan ignored him. He picked up one sealed folder. Lena's voice sharpened. Put that back. Harlan glanced at her. Getting nervous, no. I'm telling you it contains confidential work material. Then maybe your work is exactly what I need to know about. He tore the envelope open. Inside were ordinary financial documents with no obvious identifying information. Harlan flipped through them, disappointed. Across the street, Maya kept recording. More people had gathered. Lena could feel their eyes following every object Harlan placed on the ground. Her belongings, her privacy, her dignity. All displayed publicly because one officer refused to accept that he might have been wrong. Harlan moved to the suitcase. He unzipped it and began pulling out clothes. A dark blazer landed on the pavement. Then another blouse. He held up the blazer. Expensive. Lena said nothing. Harlan tossed it down. Nice clothes don't prove ownership. Reed looked at him. Come on, Sergeant. What this isn't necessary. Harlan stepped toward Reed. You want to run this stop? No. Then do your job. Reed fell silent. Harlan returned to the trunk. His attention settled on the locked black document box. Open it. No. His head snapped toward Lena. No, I already told you. It contains confidential material. Harlan held out his hand. Key. I don't consent. He laughed quietly. You still think consent matters? Lena studied him. I think what you do next matters. Harlan pulled the box toward him. Get me something to open this. Reed didn't move. Sergeant, we should call a supervisor before damaging anything. Harlan turned. I am the supervisor here. Lena almost responded, but her phone began ringing from inside the open briefcase. Harlan glanced toward it. The screen displayed 2 letters. DP. Lena moved toward the phone. Harlan grabbed it first. Give me my phone. Who's DP? That's none of your business, Harlan answered. Lena's expression changed. Don't. He placed the phone near his ear. Silence. Whoever was on the other end said nothing. Harlan frowned. Hello. Lena held out her hand. Give it back. Harlan extended the phone toward her but didn't release it. Lena took it. She turned slightly away. Not yet, she said. Then she ended the call. Harlan stared at her. Not yet. What? Lena slipped the phone into her pocket. You've already gone far enough. Something in the answer unsettled him, but instead of backing away, Harlan became more aggressive. Reed checked the interior again. We already checked it. Then check harder. Reed looked toward Lena. For the first time, embarrassment showed clearly on his face. He opened the rear passenger door. Harlan followed. He ran his fingers along the interior panels. Then he tapped one near the rear console. The sound was slightly different. Harlan stopped. He tapped again. His eyes narrowed. There. Reed leaned closer. What hollow space? It could be factory construction, or a compartment. Harlan reached for a tool from his belt. Lena stepped forward. Do not damage my vehicle. Harlan inserted the tool beneath the edge of the panel. Plastic cracked. Maya gasped from across the street. Lena closed her eyes for half a second. When she opened them, Harlan had already pulled part of the panel away. Wiring appeared underneath. Nothing else. Harlan searched behind it. Empty. Reed stared at the broken panel. That's enough. Harlan's breathing became heavier. He had expected to find something. Now the absence of evidence seemed to make him angrier. He moved toward the opposite side. Another panel. Another sharp pull. Another crack. Lena watched without shouting. She watched Harlan's hands, Reed's hesitation, Maya's camera, the position of the cruisers, every detail. Harlan noticed. Why are you looking at everyone like that? I'm remembering. Remembering what? Everything. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Harlan leaned into the rear compartment again. His hand stopped. There was a narrow seam beneath the console that didn't match the surrounding trim. He ran his fingers along it. A small recessed locking mechanism appeared. His expression changed instantly. Reed. Tyler approached. Harlan pointed. Tell me that's factory. Reed examined it. I don't know. Harlan slowly turned toward Lena. For the first time since the stop began, he looked genuinely triumphant. A hidden compartment. Lena stared at him. Whatever confidence Harlan thought he saw disappearing from her face wasn't fear. It was calculation. Harlan smiled. I knew there was something. Lena looked at the compartment, then back at him. You have no idea what you just found. Harlan ran his thumb along the recessed lock. You have no idea what you just found, Lena repeated. His smile widened. Then enlighten me. No. That single word changed his expression. Harlan straightened. Open it. I won't. Why? Because you have no lawful reason to access it. Harlan laughed. We found a concealed compartment after you refused a search. That's reason enough for me. Reed crouched beside the console. It looks professionally installed. It is, Lena said. Harlan turned sharply. So you admit you knew about it? Of course I knew about it. It's my vehicle. What's inside? Protected work material. Drugs, number cash, no weapons. Lena looked directly at him. No. Then open it. No. Harlan's face hardened. Turn around. Lena didn't move. Excuse me, I said turn around. For what obstruction? Reed immediately stepped forward. Sergeant, stay out of it. She hasn't obstructed anything. Harlan pointed at the compartment. She's refusing a lawful order. Lena spoke calmly. I have complied with your instructions. I have not consented to your search. Hands behind your back. Across the street, Maya's phone remained raised. Lena looked toward her for 1 second. Then she turned around. Harlan pulled Lena's wrists behind her and snapped handcuffs around them. Click. The sound seemed louder than the traffic. Several witnesses reacted. Oh, come on, someone shouted. Maya stepped closer to the curb. She didn't do anything. Harlan spun toward her. Stay back, I'm on a public sidewalk. Keep interfering and you'll be detained too. Maya stared at him, then deliberately raised her phone higher. I'm still recording. Harlan glared at her before returning to Lena. You could have avoided all of this. Lena looked down at the cuffs. No, Sergeant. You could have. Harlan's jaw tightened. He walked toward Reed. Get something to force that compartment. Reed didn't move. Harlan, we need to talk. About what? Reed lowered his voice. Lena stood only several feet away. She listened. The plate is clean. We know that. The VIN is clean. So the owner matches. No theft report, no warrants attached to Brooks, nothing. Harlan stared at him. Reed continued. We don't have what you said we had. Harlan stepped closer. You writing the report? No. Then let me worry about what we have. Reed's expression changed. You told dispatch there was a plate discrepancy. There was. No, there wasn't. Silence. Lena lifted her eyes. That mattered. Harlan glanced toward her, then back at Reed. Keep your voice down. You knew it was clear. Harlan leaned toward him. When you write your supplement, you leave the second plate checkout. Reed stared at him. What, you heard me? I'm not doing that. Harlan's voice dropped. You're still new enough to think every detail belongs in a report. That isn't a detail. That's the reason we're standing here. Harlan's eyes turned cold. Watch yourself. Reed said nothing, but something had shifted. Lena saw it immediately. This was no longer one officer questioning her. Now one officer was trying to control another. Harlan walked away. Lena quietly addressed Reed. Officer. Reed looked at her. Remember exactly what he just told you. Harlan spun around. Don't talk to him. Lena didn't respond. Harlan retrieved his radio. Dispatch, contact Captain Keller. Tell him I need him at Westbridge and Mercer. Reed looked alarmed. You're calling Keller. I want this locked down before she starts turning this into something it isn't. Lena studied him. You still think this is about me? Harlan ignored her. A voice crackled through the radio. Captain Keller acknowledges. ETA 7 minutes? For the first time, Lena's calm expression changed. Only slightly, but Reed noticed. You know him? He asked. Lena looked toward him. No. That was what concerned her. A patrol sergeant making a reckless decision was one problem. A captain arriving to protect that decision could mean something much larger. Harlan noticed her reaction and smiled. Not so confident now, Lena looked at him. You're misunderstanding my concern. Am I? Yes. She glanced toward the damaged interior of her sedan. I'm wondering how many times this has happened before. Harlan's smile disappeared. What's that supposed to mean? Lena didn't answer. Instead, she looked at the small red indicator on Reed's body camera. Then, at Harlan's. Harlan's camera appeared dark. Lena filed that detail away. A few minutes later, an unmarked police SUV turned onto Westbridge Avenue. It pulled behind the cruisers. Captain Grant Keller stepped out. He was older than Harlan, silver beginning to show at his temples. His uniform was immaculate. He surveyed the scene. The damaged sedan, the belongings scattered across the pavement, the crowd, the handcuffed black woman standing beside the car. Then he looked at Harlan. What happened here? Harlan walked quickly toward him. We may have found something. Keller glanced toward the concealed compartment, then toward Lena. Their eyes met. Lena expected surprise. Instead, for the briefest moment, she saw something else. Calculation. Harlan leaned close and began whispering into Keller's ear. As Keller listened, his expression grew colder. Lena watched every second of it, because the next decision would tell her whether Cole Harlan was the problem or merely part of it. Captain Grant Keller listened to Harlan without interrupting. Every few seconds, his eyes shifted toward Lena. When Harlan finished, Keller walked over. Ms. Brooks, yes. I'm Captain Grant Keller. Lena raised her cuffed wrists slightly. I assumed you were the supervisor Sergeant Harlan requested. I understand there's been some disagreement about a vehicle search. Disagreement. Keller glanced at the damaged sedan. Let's keep this calm. I've been calm since your officer stopped me. Keller studied her face. What happened? Lena explained everything precisely. The unexplained stop, the verified registration, the second plate check, the demand to search, her refusal to consent, the destroyed panels, her confiscated phone, the handcuffs. She never raised her voice. Keller listened with the expression of a man collecting facts. For a moment, Lena thought he might actually end it. Then Keller turned toward Harlan. Sergeant, with me. They walked behind the police SUV. Their conversation was too quiet to hear. Reed remained near Lena. You okay? He asked. I'm paying attention. To what who tells the truth when telling it becomes uncomfortable. Reed looked away. Several minutes later, Keller returned. His expression had changed. Ms. Brooks, Sergeant Harlan believes the concealed compartment provides sufficient cause to continue. Lena stared at him. So that's your decision. It's a secured compartment concealed within the vehicle. Security isn't evidence of a crime. We need to determine what's inside. And the original plate discrepancy, Keller paused. We're reviewing the totality of the circumstances. That wasn't my question. Harlan smirked behind him. Lena continued. Officer Reed confirmed my plate VIN registration and ownership. Before that confirmation, Sergeant Harlan claimed the plate was the reason for the stop. Is that accurate? Keller's jaw tightened. This isn't a courtroom. No. It's a roadside where your officers have dismantled my vehicle. Keller stepped closer. I suggest you lower the temperature. Lena almost smiled. I'm wearing handcuffs while your sergeant tears apart my property. Which one of us is raising the temperature? Reed looked down. Harlan moved forward. She's been like this the whole time. Like what Lena asked. Argumentative, asking questions, challenging every instruction. Keller lifted a hand. Enough. Lena looked at the small camera attached to his uniform. Then Harlan's. I want every body camera recording from this stop preserved. The silence that followed was immediate. Reed looked at Keller. Harlan looked away. Keller cleared his throat. That footage is handled according to department procedure. I'm formally requesting preservation. There may be gaps. Lena's eyes narrowed. What kind of gaps, technical failures happen? Something inside Lena went still. Not surprise, recognition. She had read that phrase before. Technical failure, different complaints, different motorists, different dates, same explanation. Lena looked directly at Keller. How often do your cameras fail during searches? Keller's expression froze. Harlan stopped smiling. What did you say? Keller asked. You heard me. Why would you ask that? Because your answer sounded practiced. Keller studied her differently now, not as an irritated motorist, as a problem he hadn't identified yet. He turned toward Reed. Run her again. I already did. Deeper. Reed hesitated. Captain, everything available. Reed walked back to his cruiser. Harlan folded his arms. You hiding something, Brooks? Lena remained silent. Several minutes later, Reed returned. His confusion was obvious. Well, Keller asked. License is valid. Address is valid. No warrants, no criminal history. And employment. Reed looked at Lena. Almost nothing. Harlan laughed. Almost nothing, generic private sector information. No detailed employer history. Keller's face hardened. That doesn't make sense. Lena said nothing. Keller stepped toward her. What exactly do you do for a living? Work that doesn't concern this traffic stop. That compartment suggests otherwise. No. That compartment suggests my vehicle contains something you can't immediately access. Keller stared at her. Then he walked toward Harlan. Open it. Reed looked up. Captain, maybe we should get authorization first. I just gave authorization. That's not what I mean. Keller turned sharply. You have an issue with my order. Reed's hand drifted toward his chest. His body camera had gone dark earlier during the confusion. Lena watched him press a small button. A red indicator illuminated. Reed looked toward her. Their eyes met. Neither spoke. Lena understood. He was recording again. Harlan grabbed a heavier pry tool from the cruiser. Keller pointed toward the hidden compartment. Get it open. Lena stepped as far forward as the handcuffs allowed. Captain Keller. He looked at her. I'm giving you the same opportunity I gave Sergeant Harlan. To do what? To stop. Harlan laughed and wedged the tool into the compartment seam. Keller's eyes stayed on Lena. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across his face. Then he nodded toward Harlan. Open it. Metal scraped against metal. The first lock began to bend, and Reed's body camera captured every second. The pry tool slipped deeper into the compartment seam. Harlan pulled. Metal groaned. Then came a sharp crack. Part of the locking mechanism snapped. Lena closed her eyes for 1 second. When she opened them, her voice remained controlled. You're destroying secured property without knowing what's inside. Harlan pulled again. Then save me the trouble and tell me. No. Another crack echoed from the sedan. Keller stood behind Harlan, watching. You were given multiple opportunities to cooperate, he said. Lena turned toward him. So that's how you're going to write it. Keller's expression tightened. Excuse me, uncooperative, argumentative, suspicious behavior. Those words come next, don't they? Harlan stopped pulling. Reed looked at Keller. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Keller said, You seem very familiar with police reports. I'm familiar with patterns. That answer unsettled him. Harlan returned to the compartment. Maybe she's been arrested before. Reed immediately answered, she hasn't. Harlan glared at him. I wasn't asking you. The locking mechanism finally bent outward, but the compartment remained closed. Harlan cursed. Across the street, Maya continued recording. Keller noticed. Get her farther back. Harlan turned. You heard him, me back up. Maya didn't lower her phone. I'm not interfering. You're distracting officers during an active investigation. By recording you, Harlan walked toward her. Maya stepped backward but kept filming. Another step toward this scene and you're coming with us. Lena raised her voice. Don't threaten her for documenting what you're doing. Harlan spun around. Quiet. Maya looked directly at Lena. I've got it. Then she tapped her screen. Upload complete. She had already sent the video to cloud storage. Harlan didn't know, but Lena understood from Maya's slight nod. The evidence was no longer only on that phone. Keller walked closer to Lena. Ms. Brooks, we can finish this here or we can finish it at the station. Finish what? Determining why you have a concealed compartment. That isn't a crime. Your behavior is creating additional concerns. Lena looked down at her handcuffs. My behavior, Keller didn't answer. Instead, he motioned Harlan aside. They moved several feet away. Reed stayed near the sedan. Keller lowered his voice, but not enough. When you write this up, start with her refusing repeated lawful commands. Reed's eyes shifted towards them. Harlan nodded. Then aggressive behavior, escalating behavior, Keller corrected. Lena stared at him. Keller continued. Concern for officer safety, possible stolen property, concealed compartment discovered during investigation. Reed stepped forward. Captain. Keller turned. What? She wasn't aggressive. Harlan's expression hardened. Stay out of this. She wasn't. Keller stared at Reed. You want to discuss this here? I'm saying the report should reflect what happened. And it will. Reed touched his body camera unconsciously. The red indicator remained illuminated. Harlan noticed the movement. His eyes narrowed. Your camera on Reed froze. Yes. I thought we had a system issue. It restarted. Harlan stepped toward him. When, a few minutes ago. Turn it off. Reed stared at him. Why, duh? Because we're discussing an active investigation. That's what the camera is for. Harlan's face reddened. Keller intervened. Leave it. Harlan looked surprised. But Keller had noticed the witnesses. Ordering a camera off now would be too obvious. Just watch what you say, Keller added. Lena almost smiled. Too late. Harlan returned to the sedan. We're done wasting time. He forced the tool into the damaged lock again. Lena watched him. Sergeant. He ignored her. Harlan, but you still have time to stop. He laughed. You keep saying that like you're somebody I should be afraid of. Lena said nothing. That silence irritated him more. He pulled violently. The compartment door shifted, almost open. Reed moved closer to Lena while Harlan worked. His voice was barely audible. I heard what he told me about the report. Lena kept her eyes forward. Then remember it. My camera has it now. Don't edit it. I won't. Don't copy it to your personal phone. Reed looked confused. Why protect the original? Something in her tone made him obey before understanding. Harlan looked over his shoulder. What are you two talking about? Nothing, Reed said. Harlan dropped the pry tool. Move away from her. Reed stepped back. Harlan looked at Keller. I'm taking her in when this is done. Keller considered it, for obstruction and failure to comply. Lena turned toward Keller. You're authorizing that Keller hesitated only briefly. Yes. Good. The word stopped him. Harlan frowned. Good. Lena looked from Keller to Harlan. I wanted to hear you say it. For the first time, Keller seemed genuinely uneasy. Harlan turned back to the compartment. Enough games. He gripped the bent edge with both hands. One hard pull. The damaged door finally broke open. Everyone stared inside. No drugs, no cash, no weapon. Just a compact black leather pouch secured in the rear of the compartment. Harlan's face lit with vindication. There we go. Reed stepped closer. Don't touch it yet. Harlan reached inside. Harlan, Lena said. He grabbed the pouch. Keller moved beside him. What is it? Harlan turned it over in his hands. No markings, no label, just a small zipper. Lena took one slow step forward until the chain between her cuffs tightened. Every trace of uncertainty disappeared from her expression. Her voice was quiet. Sergeant, this is your last chance. Harlan looked at her, then at the pouch. A grin returned to his face. You've been saying that all afternoon. He pulled the zipper open. Inside was a small black leather credential wallet. Harlan grabbed it carelessly. It slipped from his fingers. The wallet struck the asphalt. It flipped once, then fell open at his feet. Reed looked down first. His entire expression changed. Keller took one step closer, then stopped. Harlan followed their eyes. The grin vanished from his face. A polished badge caught the late afternoon sunlight. Beside it was Lena Brooks's photograph, and beneath her name were words none of them had expected to see. Lena raised her cuffed hands slightly. I warned you. For the first time since the traffic stop began, Cole Harlan had absolutely nothing to say. Nobody moved. The badge lay open on the asphalt between Harlan's boots. Reed read the identification beside Lena's photograph. His eyes widened. Sergeant. Harlan bent down and grabbed the credential wallet. His confidence returned for half a second. This could be fake. Lena stared at him. Verify it. Keller stepped forward immediately. Harlan, wait. But Harlan was already examining the identification number. What agency is this, the one listed on the credential? Keller looked at Lena differently now. Not with suspicion, recognition, and fear. Harlan, he repeated. Give me that. Harlan refused. If she's carrying fake federal credentials, that's another charge. Reed stared at him in disbelief. Look at the security seal. I said it could be fake. Lena raised her cuffed wrists, then called the verification number. Harlan hesitated. Go ahead, she said. You wanted answers all afternoon. Keller stepped closer. That won't be necessary. Lena turned toward him. Why not? Captain Keller didn't answer. 5 minutes ago, you were willing to dismantle my car because you claimed you needed certainty. Now you have a credential you can verify in less than a minute. She nodded toward Harlan. Let him finish. Reed looked at Keller. The body camera continued recording. Harlan entered the identification number through the secure terminal in his cruiser. Everyone waited. The silence became unbearable. Then the result appeared. Harlan stopped breathing for a moment. Reed moved close enough to read the screen. Lena Brooks, Senior Special Investigator, Federal Public Integrity Operations Division, active credential. Harlan slowly looked toward Lena. No. Lena said nothing. He checked the number again. Same result. Keller's face had lost its color. Harlan walked back toward her. You're federal. Lena's expression remained unchanged. I'm Lena Brooks, the same woman whose registration you verified almost an hour ago. Harlan looked toward the destroyed sedan, then the scattered documents, then her handcuffs. His mind seemed to be replaying every decision he had made. Keller reacted first. Remove those cuffs. Harlan didn't move. Now Keller snapped. Reed stepped forward. I'll do it. He unlocked Lena's wrists. The cuffs opened. Lena slowly brought her hands forward. Red marks circled both wrists. Keller immediately changed his tone. Investigator Brooks, obviously there has been a serious misunderstanding. Lena rubbed one wrist. Would you have removed those cuffs if you hadn't seen my badge? Keller froze. It's a simple question. Nobody answered. Lena looked at Harlan. Would you? His mouth opened. Nothing came out. She glanced across the street. Maya was still recording. Then Lena looked back at Keller. That silence is why I'm here. Harlan's eyes narrowed. What does that mean? Lena walked toward the destroyed sedan. She picked up her blazer from the pavement and carefully folded it. You weren't supposed to stop me today. Keller stared at her. What? This wasn't a setup. Harlan almost looked relieved. Then Lena continued, but Riverton was already under review. The relief vanished. Reed looked between them. Under review for what Lena faced Keller. Vehicle searches without documented probable cause. Property seizures with incomplete records. Body cameras experiencing convenient technical failures. Keller's face tightened, and reports that changed after complaints were filed. Harlan stepped forward. You're accusing us based on complaints. Lena looked toward Reed's camera. I'm standing inside one of them. A low engine sound approached from the intersection, then another. 3 dark, unmarked vehicles turned onto Westbridge Avenue. Harlan watched them slow. They stopped behind Keller's SUV. Doors opened. Men and women in plain clothes stepped out. The last person to emerge was Daniel Price. Lena recognized him immediately. Harlan looked from Daniel to Lena. DP Lena said nothing. Daniel approached. His eyes traveled across the scene. The broken panels, the belongings on the pavement, the damaged compartment. Then Lena's wrists. His expression hardened. I told you to stay inside the plan. I did. Daniel looked at the car. This was the plan, no. For the first time that afternoon, a faint smile crossed Lena's face. This was theirs. Daniel understood. He turned toward the arriving investigators. Preserve everything. Body cameras dispatch audio vehicle computers, traffic cameras, every report opened since this stop began. Keller stepped forward. You can't just seize department material. Daniel produced his credential. We're not asking you to destroy anything, Captain. His gaze settled on Keller. We're making sure nobody else does. Harlan looked toward his cruiser. One investigator was already photographing it. Another began documenting Lena's damaged car. Keller lowered his voice. Investigator Brooks, perhaps we should discuss this privately. No. The answer came immediately. You had privacy when Sergeant Harlan spoke to you behind your SUV. Keller stiffened. You made your decision there. Lena gestured toward Maya and the witnesses. The consequences can begin here. Reed swallowed. What happens to me? Lena looked at him. Did you preserve the recording? Yes. Did you alter it? No. Then keep telling the truth. Harlan suddenly pointed at Lena. You let us do this. Everyone turned toward him. You could have shown that badge the second I stopped you. Lena stared at him. And if I didn't have one? Harlan fell silent. What if I were exactly who you thought I was? Just a black woman driving a car you decided she didn't belong in. Her voice remained calm. Would any of this suddenly become acceptable? No answer. Daniel approached with a tablet. Lena. She looked at the screen. A list of previous complaints filled it. Several contained the same two names. Harlan. Keller. Daniel spoke quietly. We may have more than we thought. Lena studied the list. Then she looked toward both officers. The traffic stop was over. The real investigation had just begun. Daniel enlarged the list on his tablet. Lena counted 12 complaints before he stopped scrolling. Different dates, different motorists, different neighborhoods, but several contained the same names. Cole Harlan, Grant Keller. Harlan stared at the screen. Complaints aren't proof. No, Lena said. But patterns tell us where to look. Daniel turned to his team. Separate the officers. Preserve every recording. Keller stepped forward. This department will cooperate, but there's no reason to treat my people like suspects. Lena looked at him. You were preparing a report that described me as aggressive. Keller's expression tightened. That was preliminary. I heard you. So did I. Everyone turned. Reed stood beside his cruiser. His face was tense, but his voice was steady. Harlan told me to leave the second plate check out of my report. Harlan stared at him. Watch yourself, Reed. I am. Reed touched his body camera, and this was recording when Captain Keller discussed describing her behavior as escalating. Keller's face changed. You're confused about what you heard. No, sir. For perhaps the first time in his career, Reed looked directly at his captain without lowering his eyes. I'm not. Daniel approached him. Officer Reed, do not access, copy, delete, or modify that recording. I understand. An investigator documented the camera immediately. Then Maya called from across the street. I have video too. Daniel looked toward her. Maya crossed only after an investigator motioned that it was safe. I recorded almost everything. Harlan shook his head. She was interfering. I was standing outside my own business. Maya held up her phone, and I uploaded it before anyone could take it. Lena gave her a small nod. Good. By evening, what had looked like one ugly traffic stop had become something much larger. The investigation moved quickly. Dispatch logs confirmed that Harlan had reported a plate discrepancy before Reed's checks showed Lena's registration was valid. Traffic cameras showed Lena obeying every instruction before the search. Reed's body camera captured Keller discussing language for the report. Maya's video showed Lena standing calmly while her belongings were thrown onto the pavement and her car was dismantled. But the most damaging evidence came afterward. Daniel's team compared the incident with earlier complaints. The similarities were impossible to ignore. In multiple reports, drivers were described using nearly identical phrases: uncooperative behavior, officer safety concerns, suspicious movements, possible concealed property. Several searches had produced nothing illegal, yet complaints from those motorists had been dismissed. Then investigators examined body camera records. In case after case, cameras had supposedly malfunctioned during the most disputed moments. Technical failure. The same phrase Keller had used with Lena. Daniel placed several reports across a conference table that night. Lena read them silently. These aren't random, she said. No, Daniel replied. And there's more. He handed her another document. Property records, Cash, electronics, and other valuables had been listed as seized during certain stops. But some entries had no corresponding evidence room intake. Lena looked up. Missing property, we're auditing everything. She leaned back. For the first time that day, anger appeared clearly in her face. Not because of her car, because people had complained before. And nobody had believed them. The next morning, Harlan and Keller were brought into separate administrative rooms. Harlan still tried to defend himself. I followed what I believed was probable cause. Lena sat across from him. The plate was clean. I had concerns. The VIN was clean. The hidden compartment you began searching before you discovered it. Harlan fell silent. You ordered Reed to omit information. That's his interpretation. We have audio. His face changed. Lena placed a photograph of her destroyed sedan on the table. This isn't why you're here. Harlan looked confused. You think I care about the car? She pushed several older complaints toward him. These people are why you're here. Harlan looked down. One complaint belonged to a factory worker, another to a nurse, another to a retired mechanic. Ordinary people. No secret credentials, no investigators waiting nearby. Lena leaned forward. My badge didn't make what you did wrong. Harlan slowly raised his eyes. It only made it harder for you to hide. Across the building, Keller was informed that he was being relieved of command pending investigation. He protested immediately. This is a misunderstanding. Daniel placed Reed's preserved recording on the table. No, Captain. Then he added Maya's video. This is documentation. By afternoon, Harlan was formally suspended. Keller surrendered his command credentials. The department announced an external review of vehicle searches, evidence handling body camera failures, and complaint procedures. But Lena refused to let the investigation become a story about an officer who had simply stopped the wrong woman. At a closed meeting with investigators, she placed the 12 old complaints in the center of the table. Start with them. Daniel looked at her. Not your case. My case already has witnesses' recordings and federal investigators. She touched the first complaint. They didn't have any of that. One by one, the old files were reopened. Former complainants were contacted. Evidence records were pulled. Archived dispatch calls were recovered. And with every file investigators opened, the story Harlan and Keller had controlled for years began falling apart. Days later, Lena stood beside her repaired temporary vehicle when Reed approached. Do you think this changes anything? He asked. She looked toward the police building. It depends. On what? Whether people learn the right lesson. Reed waited. Lena turned toward him. The problem wasn't that Sergeant Harlan didn't know who I was. She glanced at the fading marks around her wrists. The problem was that he thought it shouldn't matter who I was. Inside the building, another evidence file was opened. Then another. And the consequences were only beginning. 4 months later, Riverton looked exactly the same. The same traffic lights changed over Westbridge Avenue. The same coffee shop opened every morning. The same commuters hurried through intersections without knowing how close one ordinary roadside had come to hiding years of misconduct. But inside the Riverton Police Department, almost everything had changed. The external investigation had expanded far beyond Lena's traffic stop. 23 vehicle searches were reopened. 9 former complaints previously dismissed as unsupported were formally reconsidered. Several motorists received notices that their cases were under review. Evidence records were audited. Missing property was traced. And the phrase, technical failure, stopped being accepted without investigation. Cole Harlan was no longer wearing a uniform. Evidence gathered from Lena's stop, Reed's testimony, archived records, and previous cases led prosecutors to pursue charges connected to falsified reports, abuse of authority, and other documented misconduct. Grant Keller lost his command. Investigators concluded that he had repeatedly failed to properly address complaints and had participated in efforts to protect questionable searches from meaningful review. His years of authority could not protect him from the records carrying his own approval. Officer Tyler Reed faced consequences too. He had followed Harlan's instructions longer than he should have. He admitted it. He did not ask Lena to excuse him. Instead, he cooperated fully. His testimony helped investigators reconstruct incidents where reports and recordings did not match. Months later, Reed remained with the department where reports and recordings did not match. Months later, Reed remained with the department under review and retraining. He understood something now that no academy lecture had managed to teach him. Silence could become participation. Maya Ellis became part of the community committee reviewing transparency policies. Her video had been viewed during official proceedings, but she refused to make herself the center of the story. "I just held up a phone," she told Lena one afternoon. "You held it up when someone wanted you to put it down," Lena replied. "That matters." New policies followed. Body camera interruptions required automatic review. Vehicle searches received stricter documentation requirements. Evidence transfers required multiple confirmations. Complaints could no longer be closed solely within the same chain of command implicated in them. But Lena cared most about the people whose names had once existed only inside forgotten folders. She met several of them at a community center on a rainy Thursday evening. There was no press conference, no television crew. Just folding chairs, coffee, and people who had spent years believing nobody cared what happened to them. One man described being searched on his way home from a night shift. A woman remembered watching officers empty her purse onto the hood of her car while strangers stared. Another man had stopped complaining because every letter he sent received essentially the same response: insufficient evidence. Lena listened to all of them. Eventually, an older man named Marcus Hill approached her. "I saw what happened to you," he said. Lena nodded. Marcus looked at the credential wallet clipped discreetly inside her jacket. "You know what I kept thinking? What I wish I'd had one of those when they stopped me." Lena became quiet. Marcus gave a tired smile. Maybe they would have listened. She looked around the room, at people who had never possessed special credentials, people who should never have needed them. Then she looked back at Marcus. "You shouldn't have needed one." He stopped smiling. Lena continued softly, "Neither should I." Several weeks later, her sedan was finally returned. Daniel stood beside it in the agency parking garage. The vehicle looked almost new. Almost. A faint line remained along one rear interior panel where Harlan had forced the tool underneath it. Daniel pointed toward the mark. They offered to replace the entire panel. I told them not to. "You could request another vehicle?" "I know." Daniel studied her. "Then why keep this one?" Lena ran her fingers along the repaired edge. "Because perfect things are easy to forget." Daniel smiled slightly. "And broken things, they remind you what had to be repaired." Her phone vibrated. Another case. Another complaint. Another person claiming that authority had been used against them because someone believed they would never be able to fight back. Lena picked up her keys. Daniel looked at her. "Ready?" She opened the driver's door. "Always." Before getting inside, Lena glanced once at the faint scar on the panel. Cole Harlan had believed the most important thing hidden inside that car was a badge. He had been wrong. The most important thing revealed that afternoon was not Lena's identity. It was his character. A badge had changed how Harlan treated her only after it appeared. Justice demanded something better. It demanded dignity before the badge, respect before the title, fairness before anyone knew whether the person standing in front of them had power. Lena started the engine and drove out of the garage. The scar remained behind the passenger seat. She intended to keep it there, not as evidence of what had been done to her, as a reminder of everyone who had once stood beside a road without a secret badge waiting to save them.
Real dignity should never depend on wealth, race, clothing status, or a powerful title. Character is revealed by how we treat people when we believe they cannot do anything for us or against us. If Lena's story meant something to you, share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more stories where truth and courage finally get the last word.